Now I'm just dreaming of jugs that, I might find in the future. Hello everyone, hope everyone's doing okay. So I thought I would do a Q&A for this video. I haven't done one for over a year, so I thought it was probably about time that I did another one. So I reached out and asked on Instagram and also on my YouTube community page if anybody had any questions, and I've got 2 pages of questions. So I'm going to answer them as best I can. I've got the door open, so you'll have all of the outside noises in the background as well. Sorry about that, but it's very warm today. So let's get into it. One of the loudest noises that you'll hear is the trains going past, and quite often I have to just sit here waiting for them to go past. If it's a long one and the cupboards are rattling, I have to wait, because I know if you're listening with headphones on, it can be quite loud. So I shall endeavour to work around that. So thank you to everybody who's asked a question. I don't have them in any particular order, so there are a few reselling questions, there are some personal questions. I'm not organised enough to have put them into different categories, so I'm just going to answer them as they come. So the first question is from Anna Ferguson Montague, and that was on YouTube. And Anna asks, as a vegan, do you buy non-vegan items such as silk, cashmere, etc. for resale? So the answer to that is I don't really sell clothing anymore, and I don't sell bags either. There's a train.
A few moments later.
But yes, I have done in the past, and my reasoning for that is that I would rather see those items being used and passed on rather than being discarded and rotting in landfill. I'd rather see somebody have use of them. The ideal is that they wouldn't exist in the first place, but now they do exist, I'd rather they not go to waste. They need to be used. I wouldn't buy them secondhand to wear myself, but that's just personal choice. I know there are some vegans that do. They have the same mindset and they would prefer to not waste things, so they feel comfortable to wear them if they're secondhand, because they haven't made that original choice to buy something brand new. But for me, I just feel uncomfortable to do so, so I don't. So the second question is from Jennifer McGonnell, and that's on YouTube as well. And she asks, do you have a death pile waiting to list? If so, what do you consider a good death pile size? That's a good question. We've just reduced our combined death pile quite a lot, and I don't really like to call it a death pile. I call it a backlog or a money pile, because it's all money at the end of the day. I don't really like the term death pile that much. Definitely during the pandemic, we were incredibly grateful for our backlog. It saw us through some really difficult times. The reason why we've reduced it at the moment is because we're moving house and we don't want to have to move as much into the new house. Plus there isn't as much storage in the new house as there is here. I think it is good to have some kind of a backlog. I think you need that. It's kind of like a rainy day fund. At the moment, I do have a backlog of my vintage items. It isn't huge. Nick would probably disagree with that. I don't think it's huge. Most of what is in his office on the shelves, the majority of that is listed. There are a few shelves that aren't listed. Some of it I'm holding on to because I'm hoping to get a booth and I think it would suit that better. Some of it I've decided that we might keep for ourselves, so I'm hanging on to it just to see whether we're going to use it in the new house. But yeah, there are other items that are sitting in a backlog that I do need to get listing, that have sat there for a while. But yes, I do have a backlog. That is the answer to that question. And I think that the size of the backlog I've got is, it's probably a healthy backlog. If I really cracked on with listing it, I could probably get it listed in a couple of weeks. depending how slow, because I'm quite slow at listing, so maybe a month. But yeah, I think that's about right, to be honest. I think it would worry me more if we had nothing. I know that's the dream for a lot of resellers, but I think that would really worry me if we didn't have anything to fall back on, because there are some weeks that you don't find as much, and then, you know, variable things come up like the pandemic, and I think that it's good to have something to fall back on. So yeah, that was a rambly answer, but I hope it's answered the question. Okay, next question is from John Shiflett, and that is on YouTube as well. And John asks, at what point is an item too large for you to consider purchasing for resale? Are there any factors other than storage and shipping logistics that go into your decision? I think the main factor is there are restrictions on box sizes, especially sending abroad, but quite a lot of the couriers have restrictions, particularly on length, and it can get a lot more expensive when you're thinking about sending a big box. I mean, in the past we have shipped out like a wicker chair, I think it was a child's chair, and that was huge. I've sent out like wicker plant stands before, but we do tend to avoid the much bigger things. If we do see them and we think they're really worth picking up, then it's probably going to be something that we would do as a collection only item, or something that we would sell on Facebook. So I think that shipping sizes is probably the main consideration. But I wouldn't be averse to buying furniture and selling as collection only, selling locally, that kind of thing. But for online, yes, we definitely think about the size. And another thing is finding a box big enough to ship it in. Sometimes we have to create a box ourselves if it's too big. So yeah, there's all those things. If I see something that I know is really worth picking up and it's huge, I generally check with Nick first, and I ask him the questions: would you be happy to ship this? Is it too big to ship? Because he has more of an idea about that, because he does pretty much all the packaging. In terms of storage, yeah, if it's something that's not going to sell quickly, then you do have to think about where are you going to put it, which is another reason why we really want to have a booth, because we quite like the idea of buying and selling furniture, but we'd need a space like that to sell it from. It would take up a lot of space in the house, definitely, and the majority of our stock is stored in our house. So yes, both of those things are definitely something that we need to think about. Okay, next question is from Caro J, and that's on YouTube. Hi Andrea, my question is, do you plan to package up remaining stock for your move by yourself, or will you trust the movers with your precious ceramics? We are going to pack ourselves, but we will have a moving firm helping us to move to Norfolk, because yeah, I don't think that we'd be able to do that ourselves. We have in the past. I don't think we've ever used a removal firm in the past when we've moved. We've just hired a van and done it ourselves, but because we're moving all the way to Norfolk, we definitely need a removals firm for that. I'm sure they're very professional, and they're probably actually better than us, really, at the end of the day. They do it for a living, but we would just feel more secure to do it ourselves. And also because, you know, we're frugal and it would probably cost more to get them to do it. Okay, I've got 3 more questions from YouTube, and they're all from Lainey, who is Big Girls Really Do Cry. So thank you for those questions, Lainey. Her first question is, other than Disneyland and Canada, which we've mentioned recently, where else would you like to go on holiday? I really would like to visit New Zealand. I have a friend there, and I'd love to see her. But also New Zealand is beautiful, isn't it? The landscapes are just breathtaking. So yeah, New Zealand is somewhere I'd love to go. Nick often talks about his visit to New York, and that's somewhere that I would really like to go. We visited America before Ellen was born, and we came into Florida, and then we hired a car and we drove across the Gulf of Mexico and then up towards California, and we got the plane home from California. So we did a trip across, but we've never done the East Coast. So yeah, East Coast America I would really like to explore. And there are lots of places in Europe that I would love to visit. There are some places in Germany that are just stunning. I would really love to visit. So much history as well. Need to get earning some money and planning some trips because time's ticking. Lainey's second question is, if you could change anything in the world in an instant forever, what would you change? That's such a difficult question because there are so many answers. What one thing would you pick? What one thing? I just don't know. I suppose what springs to mind is reversing global warming, fixing that, because it is such a big issue for our planet. And not even just humanity, just for the future of planet Earth. We have damaged it so badly. So yeah, that springs to mind. I would like to do that. And then of course there's the kind of cliched answer that you'd like world peace, and yes, I'd like to end all war. It's the way of our world, isn't it? Conflict. All humans have different personalities, good, evil, somewhere in the middle. And I'm not sure we're ever going to fix that. So there's always going to be some sort of conflict, and I'm never sure if we're going to ever achieve world peace, but it is the dream, isn't it? Yeah. So third question from Lainey. Of all the patterns, makers, designs of jugs you've come across, what has been your favourite one, and did you keep it? I'm trying to mentally think back to all the jugs I've bought. There's been a lot. I can answer the last one. Did I keep it? I didn't, no. I have picked up a couple of really lovely mid-century Sadler jugs, and I love the designs on those. I'm trying to think whether they were my favourites, but they're the ones that spring to mind, so I'm guessing they must be, because they're the ones that came straight to mind as soon as I read your question. So yeah, I guess they must be. I don't regret not keeping them. I've got a really lovely Cath Kidston jug that I got for Christmas many years ago, so I used that for gravy and sauces and that kind of thing. Oh, I do have a small blue Paul Pottery jug that I keep for like single servings of gravy, and that was second hand. It was sat on the shelf in Nick's office for quite a while, and I kept looking at it and thinking, oh, I just love the colour of that. So eventually I decided I'm going to keep that. It's not very big, so big. But I know that if I found an Orla Kylie jug, I would definitely keep that. I would definitely keep it. And I might find another Cath Kidston jug, hard to part with as well, depending on the design of it. That's pause for thought. I've had to think about that one a lot. Okay, so I asked the same question on Instagram as well, and I got a few replies and a few questions to answer. Please forgive me if I don't pronounce your usernames correctly. I will give it my best shot. The first question is from Kimonthesi. I'm hoping that's right. If not, please forgive me. The question is, what is your favourite era? I love the 70s and 80s designs. Do you think a particular era fetches higher prices? I'm with you on 70s and 80s designs. I do love that mid-century, 60s, 70s into 80s, and that's really because it's nostalgia to me. I grew up in the 80s and a lot of the furniture that we had was mid-century furniture, and our style, I guess, in both my grandparents' houses and our house was always very eclectic. So there was a lot of throwbacks to the 60s and 70s, and also more modern 80s designs as they were then. My mum had the very classic 80s black ash furniture, and I remember sort of daydreaming as I was growing up, thinking that, you know, when I moved out of home, my apartment was going to be dusky pink with black ash furniture, because that was really the in thing then. But then you grow up, and I was in my 20s, late 90s, and I moved out of home, and all the styles have moved on by then. It just wasn't the in thing, so I never did have my black ash furniture. But yeah, I think of all of that, the 70s I'm more drawn to. I think they were just a bit more colourful, a bit more fun perhaps. And I do love mid-century furniture, the G-plan, teak, you know, all of that. I'm very much drawn to it, and all the wicker, of course. So your second part of the question is, do you think a particular era fetches higher prices? I think trends in homeware come and go. We've been through a really long period of mid-century being really, really trendy, and it still is to some extent. But we seem to be moving a bit further back in time in terms of house trends. And I'm seeing trends for much more classic furniture and styles. So I'm seeing Victorian, Edwardian, Georgian, right up to Art Deco times, I suppose. Very classic, well-made furniture, beautiful floral prints, gorgeous patterned fabrics. I'm really seeing that coming to the fore at the moment. And from a reselling point of view, I've started looking out for that kind of thing. Floral curtains, more patterned curtains and fabrics, bedding. There's a big trend for farmhouse. That's kind of moved on from cottagecore, although that is still a thing. We're evolving into farmhouse, country house, and that's a big trend at the moment. So I've started looking out for that kind of thing. There's a big move from minimalism into maximalism. So that's really informing the kind of things that I'm looking out for when I'm thrifting as well. It all moves on and evolves very quickly. So you really have to sort of keep your eye on what people are looking for. Keep doing your research, look at magazines, search online, watch home renovation YouTube videos or decorating YouTube videos, and then you'll get some sort of an idea of current trends. So yeah, I hope that's answered the question. So Knits by Saatchi has asked, are you feeling the inflation? And you put in the US, so I'm guessing that's a typo because obviously I'm in the UK, so I think that's just a typo. So are you feeling the inflation in the UK, and have you raised prices on Etsy? So yes, I think it would be very difficult to not be feeling affected by inflation and the cost of living at the moment. In terms of what we do for a living, we're certainly noticing that people are shopping less because they're trying to save money, which is understandable completely. So in this business, obviously our wages are going down and the cost of living is going up. So we're feeling the effects that way as well. So the second part of the question is, have we raised prices on Etsy? We also do eBay, so I guess it applies to that as well. We haven't consciously, purposefully done that. We're still trying to stay competitive because we want the sales. So we still price accordingly and try to stay competitive in the market that we're selling in. But yeah, we haven't actively gone in and raised our prices. I think that if you do that, you're in danger of losing the sales anyway, because people are going to buy the cheaper item. So it's important to stay competitive in order to get cumulative sales. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. So I have a question from Kiwi Taiwanese 200 who asks, does Ellen still have her prom dress? And the answer is yes, she does. So moving on. Monty and Karin's Adventures, hello Karin, asks, what would be your perfect day? I had to give this a lot of thought because there are so many scenarios to what would be the perfect day. I even asked Nick, what would be your perfect day? And I think actually we both agreed a day that involves thrifting is a perfect day. We just love what we do for a living, so we're very happy to do that, and it's always something that we love and enjoy, and yeah, it's always a good day when you're thrifting. But I tried to think what would be my personal perfect day, and I'm easily pleased. I'm not a fussy person. I'm quite simple in the things that I would like and the things that I do. So I don't have lots of big fancy things that, like, you know, I'd like to wake up on a beach in Bali, or well, that would be nice, you know. In fact, instead of being miles and miles away on an exotic island, or, you know, having a wonderful exotic tropical holiday, I think I'd be a lot happier waking up in a cabin in the woods, and it would be a warm sunny day, the sun coming through the trees, spending the day walking amongst nature, spotting different animals, maybe a fire pit, glass of wine in the evening. Yeah, that sounds like bliss to me. Whenever I think about my idea of heaven, I imagine myself in a woodland, surrounded by deer and woodland animals. So yeah, that's a little insight into my mind. That's my idea of heaven, I think. The woods. I love the woods. But in a practical way, I think my perfect day would be a day of less stress. A day where there wasn't anything that was stressing me out. A day that was worry-free. A day where I didn't feel like I was constantly having to do something, having to think about this. I must do that, I must do that, I have to do this, I have to do that. You know, the whole adulting thing. The perfect day would be for someone to cook for me and just prepare meals for me all day, so I don't have to do that. I don't have to think about what I have to eat or what I have to cook for other people. I don't have to wash up. No chores. The house is beautifully clean. It does sound like a holiday, doesn't it? Perhaps I'm just craving a holiday. But yeah, I think a day without stress or responsibility, where everything is lovely and clean and I don't have to think about all of the adult responsibilities that we have to think about all day long. Can just take a break from it all. That would be the perfect day. So Mumbo Jumbo Seller on Instagram asks, what's the dream item that you would like to find to resell? So that's given me a lot to think about as well. I suppose the obvious answer is something that is going to be really valuable. And I'm really struggling to think of a particular artist other than the obvious, you know, like Potosi or something like that, that you know is going to be really worth something. Yesterday I was researching Briglin pottery and I came across the animal money boxes that Briglin pottery made, and they also made just normal pottery animals, and they were so super cute. So I'd love to find something like that. I'd love to find a Briglin animal. They're not like super valuable or anything, but I just thought they were so cute. So I'd love to find one of those when I'm out thrifting. Rather than sort of the obvious vases or anything like that, Potosi also had gorgeous animals as well, and I think I'm drawn to that sort of more studio pottery animals. Love. Um, so yeah, I'm always pleased to find something like that. I would struggle to resell that. I would struggle to part with those. So yeah, they would be keepers if I found those. So Thrifty Shutterbug, etc. on Instagram has asked, what's your biggest reseller regret? That's a difficult question to answer as well. Some of the things that you would classically say that you would regret are things that when you really think about them, they've redirected you. So you wouldn't be where you are now if those things hadn't happened. And I guess one of the biggest thing that springs to mind is we had the second-hand children's clothes shop, which really didn't work out for us. And there were many reasons that didn't happen, different choices that were made along the line, things that happened out of our control, things that when I look back, I think I would have definitely done that differently. I'd have done this, I wouldn't have done that. And it's never nice to think something failed or it just didn't work out. So you might say that that's a regret, but actually it isn't, because it helped to refocus. It helped to refocus where we were and what we actually wanted to do. It helped us to see what was important, the direction we wanted to take our reselling business. And if we hadn't done that and it hadn't pushed us in a different direction, then we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. So I can't say really that I regret doing that. It wasn't the best time of my life, but I can't say that I regret it. When you do perceive yourself to have failed, it's not pleasant to go through, and it is really difficult in that moment and in that time of your life. But then when you look back on it, you realise there was a reason that that happened. And things always improve, always. So if you're going through a really difficult time right now, you'll look back in a year, 2 years down the line, and you'll see that that difficult time was there to teach you, to redirect you, to help you grow. And as difficult as that is now, you'll get through it and you'll look back, and in some ways you'll be grateful for it, because things will be so much better for you further down the line. So I have 3 questions from Think Twice To. That was on Instagram as well. And the first question is, how do you send a parcel to Germany? So we've all been affected by the new German packaging laws, and I did apply for a Lucid number, and I started the process of all of that, but then it just got so complicated, ridiculously complicated. So because of that, we just decided to take Germany out of our postage policies. So we don't ship to Germany at the moment. That's not to say that we won't sometime down the line, but at the moment we just found it so overly complicated. So we decided against it. Although we have heard recently that GSP are helping, and they're covering all of the processes for shipping to Germany. So if you use GSP, you should be okay. Having said that, don't take my word for it. It's probably worth a call to eBay to just ask them yourself. But we've heard third hand recently that GSP are helping to facilitate that. So if you're selling on eBay and you have GSP switched on, don't worry about it too much, but it's probably worth finding out what you have to do from your end. But in terms of what we've done at the moment, as I say, we've just taken Germany out of our postage policies. We're not shipping to Germany at all, either on eBay or Etsy. The second question is, do you use cross-listing? So I'm guessing you mean like a cross-listing program. I don't personally use that. I cross-list everything that I list across eBay and Etsy, but I do it manually. And the reason why I've chosen to do it manually is because I prefer to see what I'm putting in. I want to fill out all of the tags on Etsy because I think that they really help. So I feel that it gives me a bit more control over that. So at the moment I don't use any kind of cross-listing program, but I do cross-list across eBay and Etsy. And your third question is, what app do you use for the account? So I was a bit confused by this question. I'm not sure which account you're referring to, whether it was the cross-listing app you mean, or whether you meant for doing our actual accounts. At the moment, we're a bit Luddite about it, to be honest. We haven't signed up for any digital accounting. We do have a QuickBooks account. We haven't used it yet. So when we're pushed, we will probably use our QuickBooks account. But at the moment, we're not digital. So I can't advise or recommend anything for you at the moment. I hope that's the account you meant. So a lovely question from Millie Mortimer on Instagram is, what are your life's little pleasures? Yeah, life's little pleasures. Cuddles with my dog, eating my favourite chocolate, spending time with Nick and Ellen, a good cup of tea or a good cup of coffee in a big, decent sized mug. Spending time with good friends. I'm a big homebody. I really enjoy time at home. So days off when we're not working and just hanging out at home, spending time together. Sunny walks in the woods, getting into bed when we've just changed the sheets. A lovely clean fresh house. Yeah, all of those things, just very simple things. And my very last question is from Jules Halil, and that's on Instagram as well. And Jules asks, do you miss selling clothing? In one word, no. Actually, it's a relief. It's a relief not to sell clothing. It's just, I'm really fussy about what I sell. So I spent a long time steaming and prepping clothes. I don't miss that at all. I think I just stopped enjoying picking up clothes to resell. Can't explain why, I just did. I found a real passion now for selling vintage ceramics, studio pottery, and I just get that home, fill the sink up with soapy water, wash them, done, lovely. I can just photograph them and it doesn't take very much time at all. Also, I'm finding that what I pick up to sell now does seem to turn over a bit quicker than the clothing that I was selling. I do still have some drawers with vintage clothing in, which I'm holding on to, and will sell it in the booth when we get that. And if I see any really lovely vintage clothing, I probably will still pick that up. But I'd rather not sell it online, so I'm going to keep it for the booth. So yeah, in a nutshell, I don't miss it at all. I love what I'm selling now. I have a real passion for it, whereas selling clothing was beginning to feel like a chore to me. So, like I said, it's a relief now that I don't. Okay, so that's all the questions that I've received from you. Thank you again to everybody who's asked a question. I'll probably do another one in another year's time, who knows. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. Next week I'm back with another thrift haul, so if you like that sort of thing, please think about subscribing if you're not already. I appreciate you very much if you already do subscribe. All that there is left to say is I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye.